We are going to teach the students how to make an elastic polymer, which we're just going to call by a fun name, elastic goop. This is a fun activity anytime you want to teach the kids about rubber, if you're learning about the rainforest, or if you're actually just studying chemistry and you want to teach them about polymers. It makes a material that's very much like silly putty, and then afterwards we'll do another video demo. You can teach them how they can play with it and talk about the properties of the substance. So these are the materials that you need. Very simple, easy to find. There's borax, regular white school glue, anything that's waxy in coating or something that the sticky material is not going to stick to or attach to. So we just have a wax coated paper plate, just straight wax paper, or an aluminum tin would work well as well. We just have a paper bowl with the borax poured out so it's easy for the kids to access, and some paper or plastic cups. So we have 3 right here. They're going to need about a cup of water per group, 1 cup to mix the solution, and then we just have another cup with water in it that they're going to use as their little cleaning sink. And let's go ahead and make the goop and we'll see how easy it is. So right here I've already measured 4 teaspoons of glue, but we want to add 5, so I'll add the last one for you. If you actually have a whole class set of measuring spoons, go ahead and use those, and you'll tell the kids that it's going to be 5 teaspoons of water to 5 teaspoons of glue. But what's great about this activity is you don't have to be exact. So if you don't have measuring spoons, they could just use ratios, and they could just use whatever spoon you have laying around. So we just use regular old plastic spoons. Again, as long as they keep to the ratios, they should be fine. There's already 4 teaspoons or spoonfuls of glue in there. We're going to add our 5th one. And this activity can get a little bit messy, so if you want to cover your desks with tablecloths or newspaper, it might be a good idea. Just let it drip in there. And again, we're doing a 50-50 solution, so it's going to be 5 teaspoons or spoonfuls of white school glue, and then 5 spoonfuls or teaspoons of water. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to mix that up and have them mix it well. I want to make sure it's a smooth solution. Okay, that's good. Now we're going to set this aside and make the borax solution. The next step after making your 50-50 glue and water solution is to make the borax solution. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of water, and so we do actually have a measuring cup for this, but if you guys don't have measuring cups in your classroom, go ahead and just use a plastic cup and eyeball it and do a 1/2 cup. Okay, so there's 1/2 cup, and then we're going to put in a 1.5 teaspoons of borax, the powdered borax. But again, if you don't have measuring spoons, we're going to do 1 spoonful and then 1/2 spoonful. So again, 1.5. There's 1. Just going to have to eyeball it, and there's a 1/2. We're going to mix that up. Mix it pretty well. And here we have our original glue and water solution. Let me change this. We'll put it in our makeshift sink right here. So we are going to put a teaspoon of the borax and water solution into the glue and water solution. So again, a teaspoon of the borax and water solution into the glue and water solution. Let's just drop it in. Then using that same spoon, you're just gonna start stirring. And what should happen, almost like magic, is that the solution should harden and stick to the spoon. Okay, so the moment you get that kind of elastic goop, and that's exactly what we're calling it, go ahead and take it out. Let the kind of excess water drip off. And that's going to be one little glob of elastic goop right there. Are very unscientific, but very fun words. And then just do it again. And you're just going to keep on doing that, adding that spoonful and re-stir every time. Spoonful of borax and water solution into the glue and water solution. And then stir until you get that elastic polymer or that elastic goop. Kind of hold it up and let the excess water drip off. Kind of peel it off the spoon a little bit. And the measurements we gave you should give you about 4 different globs. Okay. And again, re-stir, and I'll just show you how quickly you could just use up all of your glue solution. And if you have enough materials and your kids finish with their original batch, they can easily make another if each student wants kind of a bigger glob than this, because this is kind of small. Ugh. We'll peel it off. They kind of look like egg whites. They kind of feel like egg whites when you take them out too. Probably have enough glue solution for one small little glob left. There we go. Look at that last bit. Again, they can make more if they want. We're going to let those sit a little bit, and then we're going to show you different experiments or tests that they can play with their little globs when they're done. Okay, so here we have our pieces of elastic goop. If there was any excess water on the plate, you could just have the students tip it out really quickly, and that's totally fine. What we're going to do next is just play with the pieces of elastic goop and make predictions and make observations about what we see and we feel. Since we're working mostly with younger kids, you don't have to go into what a polymer actually is in terms of being a chain of the same molecules. All you have to do is talk about the basic properties. So explain that there are man-made polymers that we see every day, like plastic. And plastic, when you squeeze it, it's flexible. It'll change shape, but it can also go back to its original shape. And there are also naturally occurring polymers or elastic polymers like rubber that can do the same thing. So you can say, well, what do you think about the polymers that you just made? Do you think they have the same properties? Are they flexible? Can they change shape? And will they go back to their original shape? And the only way they can find out is to actually pick it up, play with it, and see for themselves. So they could just make visual observations first. They'll notice that the ones that have been sitting there for a while have a really smooth shape. They kind of even out and take on the flat shape of the plate. And the ones that we just made and just took out kind of still have their uneven shape. So as the molecules are moving around, they do it slowly, not that quickly. Then they can pick it up and notice, or have them notice and describe what they can feel about the temperature. And they'll see that it's actually quite cold to the touch. And this one's been sitting there for a while, for at least half an hour, and it's still really cold. The one that we just took out of the cup is cold as well. And so that's a really interesting thing to see. The explanation is quite complicated. Again, it's all about thermodynamics, and so you don't have to go into it with them, but it's still good for them to make note of it. And then you could have them stretch it and say what is happening as you stretch it slowly, and it's expanding. And then you could say, what happens if you try to stretch it really quickly? You could fold it over itself, stretch it quickly, and it'll just break in half. Okay, so even though it can stretch and it is elastic, there is a limit to how much it's going to stretch. Okay, and then you can have them see, or have one person in the group see, if you put it there back on the plate, if it's going to go back to its original shape. And it'll take a few minutes, so we're not going to see it on screen, but it will. And then you can have them hold it up and see what happens. Does it retain its shape, or does it change its shape? And it happens very slowly. But you will see that gravity is going to have an effect, and it's going to start stretching out on its own. And so again, another person can hold it up for a while and they can see the effect. But for now, we'll do something else with this piece. We will try to roll it into a ball. And you can ask the students if they think it's going to bounce. And how high they think it might bounce. Okay, so we'll just drop it from a very short height. So this is probably maybe 5 inches only. And it does bounce. Okay. If you use more force, will it bounce higher? Yeah, it actually does. This one bounces quite high. It's bouncing up about 6 to 7 inches. And something else you can have them try out, is if they make it even colder than it already is, if they put it in an icebox or a fridge, if they think it's going to bounce even higher. And we actually tried this, and it didn't. And the problem was that when it came out of the fridge, it had hardened a little bit, so it took a lot more work to actually get it into a ball shape. And so by the time we got it into a ball shape, it came back to its room temperature. And so they were the same, actually. Okay, but again, that's not something you should tell them. It's just something that they should figure out for themselves. When they're done, at the end of the period, give each of them a plastic bag and tell them that if they keep it airtight, their elastic goop will last for a long time. And so there we go. Who knew the fun you could have with water, glue, and a little bit of borax?